going to be looking at EEM, emerging markets, and we'll be going through the trade planning questions that I typically do, that the team does, and how we can utilize the askSlim methodology to answer these. So outlook period, this is an intermediate time frame, 4 to 8 weeks. Talk about directional bias, how do we identify that? Look at key levels, including reevaluation, so our upside, downside. And then from that analysis, do we have a clear tradable edge? If so, what are those signals that are required that would suggest that trade is a go? Obviously, and most importantly, making sure that your risk money management rules are always in place. Okay, so I have the weekly chart here of EEM pulled up. And when you first glance at a chart, especially with an untrained eye or even as a professional analyst, it can be overwhelming. Especially if it's a symbol that you haven't been tracking recently. The chart can look random, confusing. People say it can be messy. However, with an approach like the askSlim methodology, an objective analytical framework can be created. And the askSlim methodology is derived directly from the raw energies of the price action or money flows. And when it is overlaid with our studies and annotations, it comes to life. And for us, as an analyst, it tells us a story. And if that story has a decodable direction, then the analyst should be able to determine a set of technical evidence to guide that development of a logical trading plan. And you saw that happen today from each one of us analysts. So now let's take a look at EEM and see if there is a story it's telling that's worth listening to. So if I go back in time here, I'm going to go back to the COVID low. You can see there was just this massive rally that occurred all the way up to 58.29. And then post that high, it went into a major retracement that actually came all the way back and almost tested that prior low. Subsequent to that, it has gone into a huge trading range, fairly tight, and that upside was capped near the major 38.2%. So if I did a draw here using our fib retracement tool, going up to that high, major swing high, down to the major swing low, you can see here that right around that 38.2% had become a key resistance area for multiple cycles. Now, what has happened in May is that something changed. And in mid-April, we saw signs of that starting to appear. So if I zoom in, you can see here in this cycle here where we had this low that was actually a higher low, higher trough relative to that major low that formed. We had a strong right-hand translation that finished this dominant blue cycle. So that was an important indication that this next cycle could show us something that was new in terms of an upside progression. And that's exactly what happened as EEM broke out over multiple cycle peaks that went actually back to a couple years here that you can see, and we broke through that here in mid-May. So the overall shape of this major pattern structure has shifted, and that looks like an important breakout that has occurred, but I'm still looking at this more of an intermediate time frame for this to play out. Weekly momentum has flattened really over the last few weeks as there was a small retracement, but overall this pattern structure is positive, and that's what's most important for this intermediate outlook. And now if I bring in the multiple time frame analysis here using the weekly daily view, we can start to step through the some of the evidence here. So on the daily chart, you can see that in this prior cycle, very strong, and we had a major breakout. We had a very strong right-hand translation. So overall cycle structure is positive also on the daily. The current momentum on the daily is positive with the reversal scout turning up as well as the slim ribbon turning up. So we have that in terms of the positive attributes on the daily. Now, if we go back over to the weekly, something to pay attention to is we do have this black cycle bracket here that we want to just watch because it has shown influence in the past. And if that's the case, then we may see some choppiness over the next few weeks. So that's something to keep an eye on. However, if we were to push through, I'm back on the daily chart here. If we were to push through the 78.6 here from this prior swing high, swing low, so we have a swing high here from the peak and then our low that occurred. you can see we have a 78.6 around here. If we were to get through that here in the near term, then that would suggest that this low came slightly early relative to the black cycle bracket here, and we're likely in that next more important leg higher on the intermediate time frame. So the upside targets based on the overall, some of the evidence pattern structures suggest initial target of 44.05, and then over probably the next 4 to 8 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, we could get up into this intermediate fib confluence extension target zone of 45.35 to 46, which is also a major 50% fib. So those are the upside areas, projections, targets to watch for. And then in terms of reevaluation, there is a intermediate 61.8 fib right here, which is around 41.20. If we got a close on a weekly basis below that, that would require reevaluation of the projections. And if we got a violation below the 78.6, which is around 40.65, that would be negative and be warning of an early peak, and that would force this trade plan to be negated and a full reevaluation necessary. Now, when it comes to examples of signals that would suggest that the advance is resuming and the trade idea is a go, I'm going to pull over our multiple time frame grid here. And as I'm showing you all these charts, these are available directly with our level 4 membership, including the indicators and studies. So it is an unbelievable way to get direct access and be able to follow what we do really under the hood and directly. Okay, so I'm on our multiple time frame. We call this our raw chart streams grid. And from left to right, there's the weekly, daily, 2 hour, and 15 minute. And as I said, I'm going to talk through the signals from most sensitive to least sensitive in terms of what may be suggesting that the next advance is likely underway. So in terms of most sensitive, and would be most anticipatory, would be the 15-minute chart. If I was looking, and I would be looking for the slim ribbon, since that is the least sensitive of the indicators on the in this 15-minute time frame. I would be looking for that to turn back positive. Right now it's negative, and the 15-minute reversal scout is negative. So I don't have a trade right now, because that's, as we go through these trade planning questions, it is really important that you get to this final step, which is what are the signals needed so the trade setup is go. I've done everything else. I feel like I have a tradable edge. But based on the work that we do and the work that I look for in terms of price action, I don't have it yet. So I would need to see at least the 15 minutes slim ribbon turn up to suggest to me that that next leg may be starting. The next would be the slim ribbon PO. So that is this indicator here. This is a level 4 indicator. What it does is it measures when there is a likely continuation. So it's measuring an overbought and oversold variable in there. And you can see now that the slim ribbon is positive, which means that you can see that the candles are green. We've had this minor pullback here. We've had one signal that suggests a potential continuation. So there's an oversold reading happening, but it's within the context currently of a positive slim ribbon. So as long as that momentum condition would stay positive, what it's trying to pick up on is when that continuation may be happening, where we're coming out of an oversold condition within the confines of a positive momentum, and that next leg could be happening. So that would be another potential signal. And then the final two signals would be a price breakout above that 78.6 would be a very strong indication that this is a key low and that the next leg higher is underway. And obviously also if that weekly reversal scout turned back positive. Right now, it's really just treading water and trading sideways. So that's the look at EEM, and that's the trade plan that I've identified.